Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In this video, I am going to talk about the electrocardiography. Before we discuss the electrocardiography, we must draw the structure of the heart. So let us draw the structure of heart firstly. This portion is called the main aorta. This is called the superior vena cava, and this is the inferior vena cava, and these are the right pulmonary veins which gets emptied into the left atrium. These are the left pulmonary veins. This is a right auricle, this is a right ventricle, this is left auricle, left ventricle. This is the this is called PSLV, pulmonary semilunar valve, and here ASLV, aortic semilunar valve. Blood comes from the lungs, enters into the left atrium. From left atrium, it goes into the left ventricle by means of bicuspid valve, also called the mitral valve. And from left ventricle, it goes into the main aorta through the ASLV, aortic semilunar valve, and goes to all tissues of the body. Then the deoxygenated blood comes from the body and enters into the inferior vena cava, IVC, and superior vena cava, SVC, and then enters the deoxygenated blood enters into the right atrium. From right atrium, it goes into the right ventricle by means of tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. And from right ventricle, it goes into the pulmonary trunk, PT, pulmonary trunk. Then pulmonary trunk gets bifurcated into the this one. This is called the left pulmonary artery, and this one is the right pulmonary artery, and goes towards the lungs for purification. This is a brief description so far the heart is concerned. And this is the wall of left auricle. This is the wall of left. This is the wall of left ventricle, and this is most thickest part of the heart. And this is the wall of right ventricle, and this is the wall of right auricle, and this is the septum between the right ventricle and left ventricle. Now, what actually electrocardiography is? I'll define it. Electrocardiography is the electrical currents which are generated in the heart and transmitted through the heart and separate to all cells of the, or separate to all parts of the body. And then this electrocardiography, or the electrical events produced by the heart, can be amplified with the help of electrocardiograph, and the recording representation of the electrocardiography is recorded with the help of ECG. That's called the electrocardiogram. I will define this here on the board. Electrocardiography. So it is the electrical currents produced in the heart transmitted through the heart and spread throughout the body. This is called electrocardiography, and this electrocardiography can be amplified. This electrical current produced by the heart can be amplified, with the electrocardiograph. And the graphical representation of the electrical currents produced by the heart is graphical representation of heart is called ECG or EKG. Remember these 2 points. What is ECG? ECG is called the electrocardiogram. Electrocardiogram. And what is EKG? EKG is called the K for cardio, cardiogram. Cardio is a German word. Cardio is a German word which means heart. So, graphical representation of the electrical events which are produced by the heart, that's called the ECG or EKG. Now, you must remember that the heart produces the wave of depolarization of its own with the help of SA node. So, remember this point. The ECG is the composite of all APs. APs means action potential. APs means action potential produced by the nodal cells in the form of, I have told you, SA node and other contractile cells of heart. Once again I will tell you, graphical representation of the heart is called the ECG electrocardiogram, or it is also called the electrocardiogram. K means cardio, and cardio is a German word, that is the heart. So ECG is the composed of all APCs. That means the APs in the form of SA node. SA node is found in the right atrium, on the upper side of the right atrium. It generates the wave of depolarization of its own. Then it separates towards the respective auricles and then towards the ventricles. So actually ECG is the composed of all APs. That means the action potential is produced by the nodal cells in the form of SA node and the contractile cells. Not a single it is not a single AP. which is produced by a single cell, which is sometimes assumed to be. Then another point, we use recording electrodes. They are also called leads, which are placed on the body, in a clinical manner. There are 12 leads which are used. Among the 12 leads, 3 are bipolar and 9 are unipolar. I think you are getting my point. The 3 bipolar leads are used to 3 bipolar leads or leads are used to measure the difference in voltage. These leads are placed between the arm and leg or between the arms. We use 3 bipolar leads which are used to measure the difference in voltage, that are to be placed between the arms or between the arm and a leg. These all leads, that means 3 bipolar and 9 unipolar, or they are responsible to give the comprehensive picture, responsible to give the comprehensive picture of the electrical events produced by heart. So heart produces the electrical currents. These leads, which are placed on the body of an body of a human being. So 3 bipolar and the 9 unipolar leads all together, that means 12 leads together, give a comprehensive picture of the electrical events which are produced by the heart. I think you got this information. I'll mention here the separate of information from the SA node. This is the SA node that separates the electrical events towards the arteria. Then this message goes towards this interventricular septum, and then it goes like this. So you must remember the wave. I will mention here the waves of deflection in the form of P, Q, R, S and T. Then I will discuss them one by one. I'll mention the name here. This is called the P, this is Q, R, S and T waves. So P, Q, R, S and T wave. The graphical representation is like this. This P up to the Q, here are some intervals. This is called PQ interval. Then here is a segment which is here and here. This is called the ST segment. And from Q up to the end of the T, this is called QT interval. Now, I will discuss them one by one. When we talk about the ECG, ECG produces waves. They are also called deflection waves. Deflection waves. These deflection waves are in the form. This is the first deflection wave in the form of P. Then here is a QRS complex, and then the T. What is P? Firstly, I will discuss the P. P wave, it is short. It is short and it represents arterial depolarization. Remember these points. It represents arterial depolarization. So actually the SA node gets stimulated of its own, it produces a wave of deflection. So arterial depolarization means the action potential produced from the right atrium. It separates toward the left atrium and then toward the septum of the right right and left ventricle. Then it separates to all parts of the heart. It is short. It is called the arterial depolarization, and its time duration 0.08 seconds. Remember this point. After the gap of 0.1 second, the arterial contraction takes place. Once again, I will tell you, this is the P wave. P wave, here is an amplitude, that this P wave means the arterial depolarization. Arterial depolarization gets started in the sino-auricular node. Sino-arterial node, which is found in the right atrium. Second point, QRS complex. QRS complex, it's a complex wave, or it has a complex shape having complex shape. This QRS complex means this ventricular depolarization. This means ventricular depolarization means the ventricular action potential, and then precedes ventricular contraction. You must remember, the ventricles are bigger than the atria. I have mentioned this point in the earlier lectures because these auricles have to supply the blood to nearby the ventricles, but the ventricles, the size of the ventricles is large as compared to the auricles because they have to furnish the blood. This has to furnish the blood towards the lungs, and this has to furnish the transport the oxygenated blood to all cells of the body. This is the most thickest portion of the heart. That's the reason. So it produces a QRS wave in the form of a complex. It's called the QRS wave or QRS complex, like this QRS complex, having a complex shape, and it represents ventricular depolarization. Ventricular depolarization, and it precedes ventricular contraction. Why it has a complex shape? Because the ventricles, the path of the depolarization is different in the ventricles, because the wave should transfer the deflection should transfer towards the or in between the we can say the septum of the ventricles, and then towards the outer walls of the ventricles. So it has a complex shape. Then this has a thickened wall as compared to this. That's also the reason having the shape of QRS, this complex. And one more point you must remember here, that so far as the normal wave is concerned, its duration is always also about 0.8 seconds. Normal time duration for this wave is also 0.08 seconds. 0.08 seconds. Then the third wave, that is called the T wave. T wave. T wave is called the ventricular repolarization. It is called the ventricular repolarization, and the time duration is for ventricular repolarization is 0.16 seconds. Its amplitude is low. Its amplitude is low to that of QRS complex. Its amplitude is low to that of the QRS complex. QRS complex has higher amplitude than the T wave, and its spread is more, and its time duration is 0.16 seconds. One more point to be mentioned here. When we talk about the QRS complex, this QRS complex, when the ventricular contraction takes place simultaneously, the arterial repolarization also takes place. But the repolarization produces a wave that is very minimal, so that is obscured by the wave which is produced by the QRS complex. So QRS complex obscured the wave of arterial repolarization, as the arterial repolarization produces the wave which is very minute. So QRS complex produces a wave which is dominant over the the wave which is produced by the arterial repolarization. Another point. Here are certain intervals in the form of PQ interval. It is also called the PR interval as well sometimes. And then there is a ST segment and then the QT interval. What are these? PQ interval. PQ interval. It means the beginning of arterial depolarization to the beginning of ventricular depolarization. It is time duration. Its time is 0.16 seconds. Another point. It is also called PR wave. PR interval. This is actually PQ interval. This is the PQ interval. So we have discussed the PQ interval. It is the beginning of arterial depolarization to the beginning of ventricular depolarization. Its time duration is this. It is sometimes also called PR interval as well. Why so? Because Q wave is small, as it indicates arterial depolarization. Then this is the first point. Then the second point is here, ST segment. ST segment. We are talking about the ECG. Here, ECG or ECG of the heart. We are discussing the ECG of the heart. The action potential here is in its plateau phase. At this region, plateau phase means the wave of depolarization has reached toward the all cells of the ventricles. Then the repolarization is occurring. Then here is a segment, another segment that is called the, or we can say the PQ or QT interval. QT interval, the time duration of the QT interval is 0.38 seconds, and it means the beginning of, it is the beginning of ventricular depolarization to that of the ventricular repolarization. Ventricular depolarization to that of the ventricular repolarization. Here, P wave, QRS complex, that is larger in number, and this is the T wave. T wave means arterial depolarization, QRS means ventricular depolarization, and T wave is the ventricular repolarization. Hope that you get the information regarding the topic. Thanks for watching the video. Allah Hafiz.